Sarajevo. This is the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina. We arrived here last night and just 2 minutes away from our hostel is this amazing viewpoint here. Look at this, just looking down on the city. Just down the hill from our hostel is this area, which is an old market area called Bosnia, and it's actually in the Ottoman part of the city, what was originally the Ottoman part of the city. On our way down we've got ourselves some of these, which are called krompirs, and they're pastries full of potato, and nearly everywhere you go these are completely vegan, so these are a good breakfast for us. So now this part of the market is quite touristy, but it looks really nice. We're walking along the river now, away from the city hall, and towards a place that really put Sarajevo on the world map in a massive way in 1914. I'm going to show you now because we're coming up to this bridge. Okay, so this is it. This bridge is where Duke Franz Ferdinand was shot, and it started the First World War, right in this spot here. So this is it, we're on the bridge where the First World War effectively started. Strange, isn't it? Doesn't feel like...
Yeah.
When you walk around the city of Sarajevo, you can still see the scars from the siege all around the city. So there's lots of walls with bullet holes, and there's these paintings of where mortars were hit the ground. There's one here in the marketplace, and you can still see the ballistic itself. And at this particular point in the market, which was hit in 1994, 67 people died. This morning, Danny and I got the cable cars from the bottom of the city right up into one of the mountainsides, just on the outskirts of the city. And when you're looking up to where you're going, you would have no idea there's a massive city behind you because it's so forested and green and beautiful. And then you look behind you and there's this massive buildings. The reason we've come up here is for one of the more unusual but apparently quite popular attractions in Sarajevo. And that's the bobsleigh track from 1984 Winter Olympics, which happened here in Sarajevo. And I think during the war, like everything else, it got bombarded and destroyed, but what's left of it has now become quite a popular tourist attraction. So we're here now to come and have a look at the bobsleigh tracks. So you can see the cable cars up there, and then I guess this is the start of it. Danny read that if you come here, it's best to stay either to the hiking trails or on the track, because potentially it's still quite dangerous within the forest, with the possibility still of unexploded landmines and hand grenades and stuff left over from the war in the 90s. So we followed the track all the way around, and as we get to this little bridge it starts climbing up, which tells us that this is probably the end of the track. Well done! Record time! And then we're gonna head off this way and explore down here, I guess. Danny, what do you think this part of this building was for?
I think this part of the building was stood bobsleigh at the end of the race, the end of the time. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
So you can lay them down and secure them with these bolts, I imagine, somehow. Plonk it there.
Plonk it.
And then go in the back and warm yourself up a bit.
Yeah. Oh. Right, we found the other thing we've been looking for.
District Tower.
Which is?
It was in the observatory tower in Tito. Before that it was a fort, a military thing. And now, nothing.
It's a ruin.
But you can see all the bullet holes.
Yeah.
There have been snipers in here and...
Lots of fighting around this area.
Yeah.
Apparently a lot of people who live in Sarajevo really want this to be funded again and to have it rebuilt, because it was quite an important observatory when it was working. I think it was one of the top 3 in the country, and Bosnia was particularly known for its astronomy, which is something I learnt. And so it's a bit of a shame that it's also derelict and left now, but I guess the country had other priorities. We've come to Gazi Hufreg Beg's Mosque, which is one of the most iconic mosques in Bosnia. And actually it's really interesting because Bosnia is one of the only Balkan or really European countries that has an equal number of Muslims to non-Muslims, and also in Sarajevo that goes up to about 70% of the people who live here are Muslim and follow the Islamic faith. And this is because of the Ottoman influence that just happened to stay here a lot stronger than a lot of other places where the Ottomans took over. And this mosque was built by the Ottomans while they were here. Let's go and have a look at it. So we actually can't go into the mosque right now because it's time for prayer. You can maybe hear them behind me just starting to pray now. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to sit just outside the mosque and have a cup of tea. We're sat at this really cute spot. Inside it's really nice. Oh, there we go, here's our drinks. Fala. Fala.
That's all they say.
This morning we've come to the Sarajevo War Tunnels, which are some of the tunnels that were used during the war in the 90s by people to smuggle in different things, including people and food. There's a museum here as well as the tunnels, so I'm sure we're going to find out a little bit more about the history of the place while we're in there. One of the things we found out from this museum is that originally people were trying to use the airport and the runway, which is just above us, to get things in and out of Sarajevo, but it was much too dangerous. People were getting shot and it just wasn't safe. Things weren't getting in and out of the city. So by 1993 they finished building these tunnels here, and this is how people, food, weapons and all sorts of things got in and out of the city. And without these tunnels, really, they say that Sarajevo would not have survived the siege. And so now we've just come down the stairs into the tunnel, so I'm going to turn the camera around and show you. The tunnel is super low, so you've got to bend down, and it's on tracks at the bottom, so they used to use these tracks and put little trolleys on them to get things in and out. We also saw videos where they were even getting animals in and out through these tunnels. Here we go. And we're out again, so this is only a very tiny section of what was the tunnels originally, but you kind of get a little taste of what it was like going in and out of there. And obviously they went in all sorts of weather conditions, they got flooded when it was wet, and it must have been really horrendous, and the people who are doing this were incredibly brave to do it, because the airport had the opposing army on either side. Yeah. We've got off by the National Museum, and we've just come around the corner to come and see Bosnia's most ironic and sarcastic monument. Let me show you. So what we're looking at is a giant canned beef tin, and it's sarcastic because it's representing when the war was happening here, there were aid drops happening in the city, dropping lots of tins into the city for people to eat, but many of them were 20 years old from the Vietnam War that just hadn't been used. And also, as well as stuff like canned beef, they also sent in lots of things with pork in them, and with a Muslim majority in the city, a lot of the stuff couldn't be eaten, so they just hadn't thought it through at all. So now Bosnia remembers this with this very not well looked after statue. It's our last day in Sarajevo today, so we're using it to explore some things that we still haven't seen yet. We're making our way over to the White Fortress, which is actually really close to where we've been staying, which is cool. And there's some really, really lovely streets around here. We're right into one of the mountains, and so it's a bit of a hike around the streets, but they're all really pretty. And we've just come across this old gate here, which I think was originally part of the fortress? Maybe it was part of the fortress, let's say it was. And now we're heading over towards the White Fortress. So we've actually decided not to bother going in the fortress, partly because it's 5 marks per person and it doesn't look that big or impressive anymore. I think most people come up here for the views anyway, and the views are amazing from just outside the fortress as it is, so we don't see any need to pay for it. I mean, being up here, it is stunning, it is gorgeous, like views of the whole city, but also kind of, I love looking at the houses that are in the mountainside. It's a really nice day for it as well. We've come across this place. It looks like it probably wasn't rebuilt after the war. It's been left completely derelict. Either they didn't have money to do it, or the people who were working or living here didn't have the means to come back.
Or they died.
Or they died, yeah, it's possible. Wow, look at this part of it. Show you, it's a big building, so either it was flats. I think it may have been flats. Here. I reckon it was some kind of communal living. We're on our way down now from the hill into the town centre. And actually we've walked past this place every day but haven't been in yet. So we're coming into here, a graveyard. This is a Muslim graveyard, and from what we can tell, all the people who are buried here died during the war. So all the dates here come up to about 1995, 1996, in the mid-90s. What makes the graveyard extra sad is that we've noticed that most of the people in there are super young, mostly between their teens and their early 30s, but we saw graves of people even younger. But it's a really beautiful spot, it really stands out on the hill. We're making our way now back to our room. We're going to go pack up our things, maybe do some editing, do some work, and then get ready because we're leaving Sarajevo tomorrow to go to the next place in Bosnia. If you've made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching.
Well done.
Well done. And hopefully we'll see you next time.